Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to The Walk. Today is Thursday, September 26th, and we have been talking about the fact that God is ready to turn his house back towards him, and he's going to do it through his wrath, that he's going to let those false prophets and the elders of the houses that are leading their families into this idolatry go down the tubes, so to speak, in their sin and hit rock bottom. And that brings us to Jerusalem will not be spared. That is the subtitle for this next section of Ezekiel 14. We're starting in verse 12. And it says, "And the word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, when a land sins against me by acting faithlessly, and I stretch out my hand against it and break its supply of bread, and send famine upon it, and cut off from it man and beast, even if these three men, Noah, Daniel, and Job, were in it, they would deliver but their own lives by their righteousness, declares the Lord God." Now, right away, I found that very odd. I found it very odd that Noah and Job are all the way back in Genesis, and then Daniel's in here. And if you've done your research, you'll know that Daniel was alive during the Babylonian exile, just as Ezekiel and Jeremiah were. Daniel's from the time period of Ezekiel. In fact, I haven't figured that out yet. I did look for it, but Daniel's probably still alive. So why is Daniel here? Well, as I started to dig into these study Bible notes, I got my answer. So in the ESV's Fire Study Bible, it said, Noah, Daniel, and Job, the coming judgment against Jerusalem was so certain that the intercessory prayers of these three men, known for their deep devotion to God, could not spare one rebellious person. Okay, still wondering, why does it mention somebody that's still alive during Ezekiel's time? Well, then I turned to the Cultural Study Bible, and that's where the answer came. The biblical Noah and Job are paragons of virtue from eras long ago. They are not considered to be Israelites. Moreover, the spelling of Daniel here, which is D-N-L, keep in mind we're in Hebrew, so it's okay that there's no vowels, differs from the Hebrew spelling of the prophet Daniel, which was D-N-Y-L. We're talking about a different Daniel. That's why it's saying Daniel, and right away we're thinking of the book of Daniel. It's not that Daniel, it's an entirely different Daniel. And he is usually taken as a reference to another ancient Gentile of old, hence the aptness of comparing the king of Tyre to him. In 28:3, we saw that the king of Tyre is compared to this Daniel. The father of Daniel, who is described as a righteous ruler who judges the cause of the widow and adjudicates the case of the fatherless. So this Daniel was an upright man who prays to God and gives righteous judgment. He was a righteous leader within his community. So Ezekiel here is talking about that Daniel. Now in the Apologetics Study Bible, it says that the identity of Daniel has caused a lot of debate. And though there is agreement on the identities of Noah and Job as well-known figures of the Old Testament patriarchal period, some scholars have equated Daniel, D-A-N'-E-L, in verse 14 and 20 with D-N-I-L, a hero of the Ugaritic tablets found in Syria. That Daniel would have been a contemporary of Noah and Job. So what we're finding here is that there was quite a bit of debate, and some people do say that this is Daniel, who was also exiled to Babylon, just as Ezekiel was, and lived in that same time period. But most of the scholars say it's much more likely that this is that Daniel who lived righteously and was a fair judge. And that brings us to verse 15. "If I cause wild beasts to pass through the land, and they ravage it, and be made desolate, so that no one may pass through because of the beasts, even if these three men were in it, as I live, declares the Lord God, They would deliver neither sons nor daughters. They alone would be delivered, but the land would be desolate. So these beasts are preventing them from passing. So in verse 16, it says delivered neither sons nor daughters. It's basically saying that even the children are not going to be safe because these elders have allowed the idolatry, to lead the families away from God. And God is not willing to tolerate it. Just as that's the case with them, the same is the case with us. God uses his gentle guidance and his discipline to bring us back to him, to shake us up and say, whoa, I've got to be aware of the fact that I've gotten off track. And we need to allow him to turn us, to help us see where we are getting off track, and be thankful for the fact that he loves us enough to do it. Have a wonderful day. God bless, and keep walking the walk.